I think the past year taught me more about alignment, business, relationships, leadership, energy, joy, self-trust in life than any other year before. Welcome back to the Quiet Leaders podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little different. It's going to be a little more personal, and honestly, it's probably one of the most reflective episodes I've recorded so far. And that's because I just turned 31 on May 17th, which ironically, this is episode 31. So of course, this means I officially completed an entire year of being 30. And I have to say, year 30 absolutely changed me. I feel like there's this narrative sometimes around turning 30 where people make it seem scary or like you're getting older. But honestly, I loved year 30. And I remember back when I think I was 26, I had this breakdown of oh my gosh, I'm nearing age 30. I am so old. And now that I'm here, I could not be farther from the truth, because year 30 was expansive for me. It was healing, challenging, clarifying, emotional, and empowering. And I truly feel like I stepped into myself in a completely different way this past year. So today, I wanted to share some of the biggest lessons I learned during this year. Not from a place of having life perfectly figured out, because I definitely don't, but from a place of reflection. Because I think the past year taught me more about alignment, business, relationships, leadership, energy, joy, self-trust in life than any other year before. So if you're entering your 30s, you're in your 30s, or whatever age you are, honestly, just navigating any kind of season of growth, identity shifts, I hope this episode resonates with you. So let's dive in to lesson number 1. And that is follow what lights you up. This was definitely probably the biggest lesson of the year, because the things that are meant for you will energize you. And not every part of business is going to feel exciting all the time, obviously. But overall, the right things create energy. They create momentum. They create expansion. And I started noticing this everywhere. Certain clients energized me. Certain projects energized me. Creating trainings energized me. Having deeper conversations also energized me. And other things completely drained me. And I realized my energy was constantly giving me the information. And this became especially clear while building the Integrator Accelerator recently. I could sit there for hours creating trainings, mapping out ideas, building systems, and instead of feeling exhausted, I actually felt more energized. That's when you know you're aligned. Now, lesson number 2, expansion versus contraction is a way to make a decision or move forward. Because this is one of the most important tools I use now, which I completely credit to this coaching program I took called The Root with Betsy Hurden. If you're interested to learn more about that, I can give you her information. But this is one of the most important tools that I now use. So whenever I'm making decisions and I'm unsure, I can ask myself, does this feel expansive or does this feel contractive? Because our bodies usually know before our minds do. And this can apply to everything: opportunities, clients, relationships, offers, collaborations, investments, even environments. There were moments this year where something looked good logistically, but my body felt tight, heavy, contracted. And every single time I ignored that feeling, it taught me something. I had a lesson to learn there. Meanwhile, the things that were aligned usually felt expansive, light, open, exciting, grounded. Not necessarily easy, but expansive. And I really learned to trust that. Now, lesson number 3, it's 80% inner work, 20% strategy. I knew this stat before, but now I truly believe this. For years, I really thought success came from the perfect strategy, the perfect systems, the perfect content, the perfect offer. But actually, this year taught me that your inner world affects everything. It affects your confidence, your self-worth, your nervous system, emotional regulation, beliefs, identity. All affect your results. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't believe you're capable of holding it, receiving it, or sustaining it, you're likely going to sabotage it. And honestly, a lot of the growth this year came from doing the inner work, learning to trust myself, to stop abandoning myself, to stop overproving, learning to feel safe, being seen. And that changed more than any business strategy ever did. Which moves into lesson number 4. And that play is actually a strategy. This was a big one for me because I spent a lot of years just doing the thing, pushing, trying to prove myself. And this year really taught me that joy matters. Play matters, life matters. Traveling, laughing, being present, celebrating, resting, experiencing life. Those things aren't distractions from success. They actually support your success. And some of my best ideas have come when I wasn't forcing them. And the more I started prioritizing joy and spaciousness, the more aligned everything became. I'm actually recording this episode right before I leave for a solo trip to Santa Barbara by myself for 4 days. So I will update you all on how that goes. But now I'm doing the thing. I was called to book this trip, and let me tell you, I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Booking this trip, spending money on this trip, and now I know why. So I will definitely let you all know what comes of this solo vacation when I get back. Which brings me to lesson 5. Put yourself before your clients. Now, this one might sound controversial in the service provider world, but I definitely stand by this because you cannot build a sustainable business while constantly abandoning yourself for other people. And as behind the scenes leaders, this is really easy to do because we're naturally supportive, we care deeply, we want to help. But year 30 taught me my business also has to support me, not just everyone else. So I started getting better with boundaries, energy protection, aligned clients, realistic capacity, and building a business around my life instead of building my life around work. And that really changed a lot for me this year. And because when you put yourself first and you do that action first, you know you're going to get the stuff done for your clients. But it's easier for us to let go of things for ourselves if we put ourselves last. So making that flip, making that switch is a game changer. Now, again, this leads to lesson number 6, which is simplicity changes everything. Now, this year I simplified so much. My offers, my messaging, my business model, my schedule, my priorities. Things became clearer, easier, and more profitable by doing so. And I think we're taught that growth requires adding more offers, more content, more complexity, more clients. But I've actually learned that simplicity scales, clarity scales. And sometimes the most aligned path is actually the simple one. Sometimes we have to remove something, not add something to grow. Now, lesson number 7, fewer, deeper relationships matter more. Again, this became another big theme of my business this year. I stopped focusing on trying to reach everyone, growing a huge audience, chasing visibility, and instead focused on deeper relationships, trust, conversations, long-term partnerships. And ironically, that created better opportunities, better clients, better collaborations, better experiences, because that depth changed everything for me this year. And it brought me some really, really great clients. Now, lesson number 8, Your environment affects your energy. Again, year 30 taught me that environment very much matters. Where you live, how you work, what you surround yourself with, the pace of your life, the energy around you. I realize I function so much better when my environment supports me. Now that sounds obvious, but you don't realize how unsupported you are until you check in with it. For example, I was living in a house on 3 acres and I was supporting that property. I was doing all the work, right? It took a lot to maintain that. Now, fast forward, I'm in this apartment where everything is taken care of for me. And it's a really supportive environment for me to do what I need to do in my business and with my kids. Because sometimes we can normalize being overstimulated, overwhelmed, and constantly on. But when your environment feels supportive, you can think more clearly, you can create more easily, and you feel safer in your body. And that matters a lot more than people realize. This also can apply to where you work. For example, I sometimes need to go to a coffee shop because I'm inspired, I'm productive there, it's great. Because sometimes working from my living room kitchen, there's a lot going on. So that can apply here as well. Lesson number 9. You already have the answers. This was a huge one for me. And this is really credited to the shamanic training that I've been going through. I have my last training in July. So once that comes, I will share all about my experience. But that really, really taught me that you already have the answers. Which then led me to stop looking outside myself for every answer and instead to start listening inward more. Your intuition knows, especially as women, we have strong intuitions. Your body knows, your energy knows. And the more I trusted myself this year, the more clarity I had. And not because I suddenly became perfect at making decisions, but because I stopped outsourcing my power and instead listened to my intuition. Now, the final lesson, lesson number 10, is that alignment creates momentum faster than force. And this, again, might be the biggest lesson of them all. They're all huge lessons, but this one might be the biggest one. Because the more I stopped forcing, the faster things started moving. Not because I stopped taking action, but because my actions became aligned. I stopped trying to fit myself into things that weren't meant for me. I stopped chasing things that drained me. And I stopped trying to prove my worth through overworking. So instead, I really focused on alignment, intention, simplicity, sustainability, and trust. And this is where really, really big shifts started happening. So overall, year 30 really taught me that life gets really, really beautiful when you stop trying to force yourself into someone else's definition of success. When you start trusting yourself, protecting your energy, choosing alignment, creating space for joy, and building a life that actually feels good to live in. And honestly, if this is what my 30s are going to feel like, I am so excited for the rest of this 30s era. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of this journey with me. And if this episode resonated with you, I would absolutely love if you could share this on Instagram, on your socials, or with a friend. Feel free to tag me. I would love to see that. I would love to hear what lesson resonated with you the most. All right, I will see you in the next episode.